Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Brat Mode. I'm Singh, your host, and this is my Honda CRF450RL. All right, everybody, let's start with the dislikes. There's nothing I hate about this bike. There's some things I think are worth changing, which I will be changing, but nothing I hate. Definitely some things I dislike, and that's what we're gonna cover in this video. Number one, it's gotta be the seat. The stock seat is identical to the motocross bike, which is absolutely atrocious. It's very uncomfortable. I did a 100-mile break-in ride on this bike when I got it, and after I got home, I was just done with it. I took it off, threw it in the trash, and ordered the Seat Concept Comfort Excel seat. And that's the first thing I've done to it because I just could not stand and ride on the stock seat. Now, if you're trailering this bike to your riding spots, single track, double track, any type of off-road riding where you don't have to sit a ton, you don't need to replace the seat. But I don't plan on doing that. I plan on riding this bike from my home to where I want to ride. On some occasions, yeah, I might trailer it if I'm going pretty far. And that's not going to be 90% of my riding. I absolutely will be sitting on this bike, riding a little bit street. So I needed more comfort. So seat is number one. That is terrible on this bike, and I understand why Honda did it. But I replaced it because for me, for my type of riding, I needed to be a little bit more comfortable. So Seat Concepts Comfort Excel was the first thing I ordered. First mod I've done. I don't regret it. Made the bike so much more enjoyable to ride. I've had Seat Concept seats on other bikes. I've got one on my DR650 as well. And I've had it on my Honda CRF450RL, my WR250R, and many other bikes. I love their seats, and I've got it for this bike as well, and no complaints. The second thing that I don't particularly like about this bike is the stock ECU mapping. Now, I know, again, I understand why Honda did it. They got to pass all the emissions. They got to pass all the noise testing and all the other regulations. So I understand why Honda did it, and I am not complaining. I'm glad Honda did what they had to do to bring this bike to us, bring this bike to the States and all over the world. I thank you, Honda, for it. And I'm not complaining. It's a dislike. I wish it was a little bit better, and there are many options to make it better. But that's got to be one of the other things I really dislike. Thank you to Maverick at 550 Performance, giving us a really affordable option to flash the ECU. So you don't have to spend $800 to $1,200 on other ECUs, which, has been really the only option. Takamoto, Mike will be happy to sell you and spend and take as much of your hard-earned money as you like. You can spend infinite amount of money on this bike, starting with ECUs. Get SX1 from Takamoto is $1,000 starting. And I appreciate Maverick for doing what he's done with this bike. He's really popular with the CRF300Ls, and I'm glad he brought his knowledge to the 450RL and brought in some competition for ECU manufacturers. And wouldn't you know it, Mike at Takamoto is also working on an ECU flash now. So competition is always good for the consumer. So again, Maverick, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out with an ECU flash and giving us a really affordable option. And that's the option I'm going to explore. $200, you get your ECU flashed, and you get unlimited reflashes if you make any changes afterwards. ECU gets reflashed, you just gotta send it over. For example, if you do an exhaust, you open up the airbox, you put in cams, etc. He's happy to reflash it for free. This is not sponsored. I wish it was, but I'm just really glad he's given us this option to get it flashed. and not have to spend $1,000 on an ECU. ECU flashes are really common on street bikes, but it seems on dirt bikes it's not so common, and everybody jumps to aftermarket ECUs, which have their benefits. But for 99% of us riders, we don't need the ECU. We love that flash, and flash is most likely going to be enough. So I'll be testing that out on this channel. But that's number 2. The stock mapping on the stock ECU is not great. Number 3 on the bike is going to be the fuel range. Again, I get it. That's usually what happens with a lot of these dual sports, are about 2 gallons, and that's it. Any bike you get in this category is going to have terrible fuel range, and there's plenty of aftermarket options for you. Just like on this bike, you can go with IMS 3 gallon. IMS just launched, I think, a 5 gallon tank. There's Nomad, and maybe other options. But IMS 3 gallons is really popular, and I think that's more than enough for most people. The 5 gallon option is pretty nice. Looks massive, looks like a tank, but if you need the range, you need the range. I will most likely go with the 3 gallon tank, but again, I don't plan on traveling the world on this bike. 2 gallons is just enough, but the 3 gallon will get me that extra just in case I get lost in the woods and I need to make it out. So I'm keeping the 2 gallons for now, but eventually we'll get the 3 gallon IMS. That's number 3, the stock fuel range. You get about 40 miles to the gallon, 45. So 80 to 100 miles, you better be in a gas station trying to fill up. That's number 3. Number 4. The other thing I'm not the biggest fan of on this bike is the stock exhaust. Just like many other dual sports adventure bikes that come out of Japan, the exhausts are just so heavy and so restricted that you have no other options but to replace it. I think KTM does a great job with their exhaust. They're very easy to just replace the tip of the exhaust and get a free-flowing exhaust, really cheap, really affordable. I think Honda could have done something like that. I wish they had done something like that, where you have to spend just maybe a couple $100 and you get a free-flowing exhaust in the factory look, but not something we can do with this bike. We would have to replace the entire can, which can get expensive. So there are some affordable options like using the CRF450X exhaust, but they're so hard to come by. I've been watching them like a hawk, but nothing's been on the market. And the header from the X is a little bit longer, so I've seen some cases where it can hit your front wheel. If you use your full travel, the wheel comes back and hits the exhaust header. So something to think about, but that would be the most affordable option in my opinion, is going with the CRF450X. Otherwise, you're looking at Yoshi, I think, is the next cheapest, which is about $700 full system. Graves, I think, is the most expensive. But I wish Honda had done some engineering on the stock muffler like KTM, where we could just replace the end piece and get a free-flowing exhaust with aftermarket caps, but not the option here on this bike. So stock exhaust is the 4th thing I dislike about this bike. 5th thing, why didn't I get it sooner? Why did I not get it sooner? I mean, this bike is just amazing. I love this thing. I wish I had gotten it sooner. It's so good in every way. Street, no problem. Off-road, you name it. What kind of terrain do you want to ride? This bike got it right out of the showroom floor. You just have to finesse the clutch to get away from the ECU problems, but that's okay. That's all right. You get used to it, but good thing you got an option for $200 of an ECU flash. Can't beat that. So those are the things I dislike about this bike. I also have a video on the things I like and love. check that video out as well. So I appreciate you guys' time. Stay tuned. Many more videos to come on this bike. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.